Hi, David here from Guitarist magazine. I'm here with Neville Martin.
Hi, Neville here.
And today we are looking at some Faith acoustic guitars, a trio of Faith acoustic guitars, in fact. And if I get the planets right, they are the Neptune, the Mars, and the Earth version.
Indeed.
So if, Nev, you'd like to sort of discuss the spec?
Okay, and well, I've got the Earth, which is the small-bodied concert-sized cutaway guitar. David's got the Mars Dreadnought, and behind us is the Neptune, which is a mini jumbo cutaway. They've all got the same timbers throughout, so essentially the build is identical other than the actual size and nature of the three guitars. So all of the guitars have solid East Indian rosewood back and sides. The top is torrefied Sitka spruce, neck is African mahogany, and the fingerboard is Macassar ebony. The pickguard's Macassar ebony, the headstock overlay is also Macassar ebony. They're not pitch black ebony because the tradition used to be black ebony, but now people don't mind. I mean, Taylor started, didn't they, using not the jet black stuff because they chucked so much of the stuff away. It was a criminal.
It came as a surprise to me that ebony isn't black.
Yeah.
Or all ebony isn't black, for instance.
I know. So the other nice thing about these is rather than just good old plastic for the bindings, they've got koa, which is a beautiful wood, Hawaiian wood, for the bindings, and all this hand inlaid abalone. This isn't plastic strip but just shoved in. This is individual pieces of abalone, hand cut and hand inlaid, again round the sound hole. We'll get to this in a second, this inlay. And the Faith inlay is also abalone, and Patrick James Eggle, his name's here. Now, Patrick James Eggle means a bit to these guitars, doesn't he?
Yeah, because he's basically the designer of these guitars and overseer of their production, indeed as well.
Indeed, and these guitars are actually called the Faith PJE Legacy, and they're called the 20 series because this is the 20th anniversary of both Faith as a company and the design of these guitars. It's
unbelievable. It's 20 years because I can remember Faith, but I wouldn't have said it was 20 years ago.
No, neither. Well, David and I go back with Guitarist to the 90s, and we've known Patrick since he started making guitars. In fact, I reviewed the very first Eggle guitar ever in the world in Guitarist, and in fact, I have to say, I used the title for the thing, "The Eggle Has Landed."
Yeah.
So terrible as that may be, Patrick made electrics for some time, and then he moved to America, and he got into building acoustic guitars, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He spent a bit of time with James Olsen, didn't he? Who makes James Taylor's guitars.
Yeah.
Came back and went into building extremely high-end stuff, acoustics, didn't he? Lots of inlay work. But then he went back to where his heart really lies, which is building these very fine electrics that he does today. Well, tell them about Barnes and Mullins, who live next door to Patrick.
Yeah, it's funny. We've often been up to visit both companies, in actual fact, and they are literally next door to one another. And so, effectively, all Barnes and Mullins, who is the wholesaler, has got to do is nip next door, and they've got Patrick virtually on tap. So a liaison between the two of them, or a working partnership between the two of them, was sort of written in the stars.
Yeah, written in the stars.
Yeah, indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Does that... What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And Barnes and Mullins, who are a very famous, long-standing UK distributor, they thought that the guitars Pat had designed, the acoustic guitars he designed, were too good to leave behind. So hence the Legacy series. So the PJE, which is Patrick James Eggle Legacy. That's where this all started from.
Let's talk about the inlay, the 11th, 12th and 13th frets, designed by Sean de Burker.
Yeah.
And it is, I must admit, a little bit of a Marmite feature. You're either going to like it or not quite so much. But basically, it's again, abalone,
Yeah.
hand
And
inlaid.
pearl.
And pearl, yeah. And you've got the canopy of the tree on the 11th. You've got the trunk of the tree on the 12th and the roots of the tree on the 13th frets. And what's your impression of it?
You're right. It's a marmite. Marmite, for those who don't know what marmite is a yeast extract spreadable on toast and stuff. And people either love it or they hate it. Hence, in the UK, we say it's a marmite thing. It's a very big, bold statement indeed. It's superbly done. Again, it's hand inlaid, and it's the tree of life, as they're calling it, tree of life. And it's beautiful. I mean, the pearl that it's purple, blue, and green. It's really beautiful. But it is a big, bold statement.
Yeah, and people are either going to love it or they're not going to like it.
Yeah.
Very much at all. To be perfectly frank, it would take me a while to get used to it. But then, on the guitar I use most of the time, I've got no inlays or anything on the fretboard at all, so that's just personal taste on my behalf. But as you've said, all these are same construction. I don't know whether we mentioned the Grover tuners with the ebony buttons, and we've got a 3-piece mahogany neck, scarf jointed here, separate heel down here, which we've discussed lots of times in reviews of the past. It's a cost-cutting procedure to do things that way, but it's also very ecologically sound as well, as you don't use as much wood. And a lot of people would insist that it's a stronger bond anyway. I remember one conversation with Patrick where he said that I think it's the arrow joint is probably the strongest one, where it goes into the headstock itself. But anyway, so it's actually stronger than the mahogany necks, where you get the inevitable neck break if the case is dropped or whatever. So seeing as they're of the same construction, I suppose the proof is really what they sound like. What are the differences? So it might be interesting to hear each of them solo. So that we can give some idea what a different body size offers to sound.
Well, I reviewed the all three guitars in this month's Guitarist magazine, issue 494, and the thrust of the review ended up being it wasn't initially designed to be that way, but it ended up being how the three body sizes and styles made the guitars sound acoustically, and how it made them as a stage or a sofa kind of guitar. I mean, there's so much snake oil when it comes to tone woods on acoustics, because there's traditional, you say, oh, rosewood and citrus spruce always sounds like this, and mahogany sounds like that, blah, blah, blah. To a degree it does, but very often the size and style of guitar has a much more bearing. Now this, the smallest of the three, with a cutaway, so there's a little bit more internal mass gone. This is focused very right at you, lots of mids, not quite so much top, not quite so much bottom, but it's a lovely picking guitar. It still sounds really sweet, and until you play the bigger guitars, you don't think it's lacking in anything at all, do you?
No, but I've got the Dreadnought, and Dreadnoughts are associated more with strumming, arguably. Although that didn't hold Michael Hedges back, it has to be said.
Or James Taylor, or Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young, or Joni Mitchell,
or anyone. So where it got the reputation from, I don't know.
Well, it's another of those snake oily things, isn't it? These do that, those do the others.
Yeah, but if we hear some sort of bold strummer chords on this, then. You can see where the sort of singer-songwriter I mean, the whole idea of the Dreadnought was back in the days when all you had on stage was a vocal mic and a mic sort of hung on a mic stand, hoping that it would be able to pick up the acoustic guitar. So you wanted that mid-range thwack.
Yeah.
But now, of course, the habit, if you like, amongst a lot of players is to go for smaller bodies because you don't need that anymore. You've got decent pickup systems. Did we mention the Fishman Matrix blend?
No. They've all got the same Fishman Matrix blend, which is the top of the Matrix line. It's a great. We've got the one with the blend control, overall tone control, and there's a tuner, which is a lovely backlit tuner, which we used to tune them all up. And in fact, David tuned one to Dadgad, so that did that as well, didn't it?
Yeah.
Very, very nice system, very nice. But you're right. I mean, on stage, this is the smallest one. This is probably, you choose this as your stage guitar. It's the smallest. It's closer to the body. It's easier to throw around.
Comfortable to stand or sit with. Yeah. Dreadnoughts have got this reputation for being a bit like this, especially for sitting down. You tend to play with a humped shoulder sort of thing. But obviously on stage where you've got it on a strap, and these come with strap pegs in both the neck and obviously the butt here as well. It might be interesting to hear the pickups as well. So do you want to give a quick waz with yours and or just isolate the pickup?
Okay.
Right, so if I do the same sort of thing. That's the sort of effect.
Impromptu.
That's the sort of effect you'd get if you were playing them on stage. That's the sort of sound that you'd be feeding the front of house, and of course you can put reverb on it and EQ it, etc., etc., etc. But basically, if you've got a good sound leaving the guitar, then the front of house have got so much more to play with.
Absolutely.
Now maybe we ought to swap over to the Dadgad tuned guitar while we're comparing body sizes and everything, and just hear what that's like. So here we are now with the Neptune cutaway guitar, the one that was on the stand just behind me a few seconds ago. This is tuned to Dadgad, so it is going to sound slightly different anyway from a timbral point of view, but this is what it sounds like anyway.
Do a little bit of picking on it as well, just to hear what the individual strings sound like. In the review, I described this, which is a mini jumbo, so it's kind of bigger than this, the concert size, and probably overall not quite as internal mass volume-wise as the Dreadnought, but it does, and as you know, you'd expect to say this, it kind of has characteristics of both. It has the big bottom end of the Dreadnought, and it's got the focus of the concert.
It sits in the middle.
It sits nicely in the middle. So, you know, if you're talking about sofa noodling, you know, that's in fact that's the sofa to stage guitar. They're all sofa to stage guitars. Essentially, you could do anything with any of these guitars, but in your head, that probably says this is the one that does everything possibly slightly better than all of them.
Yeah, all rounder. And we've got to remember that this is actually drop tuned, so it's going to sound a little bit more bassy anyway. So. Also, David plays, because he's a proper fingerstyle guitarist, he plays using some flesh and some nail, whereas I'm just using a nail. In fact, they're not even real nails. I have them done a nail bar because my nails break. So I have that very crisp top end. Dave's a bit warmer. Yeah, just a. You can be as gentle as you like, or I can, by twisting my hand around, I can actually get the nails on there. So you've kind of got an extra range of dynamics, but now we're getting into playing technique.
Well, but you know, if we are talking about how you can apply your technique to these guitars, and Dave does solo live work where he wants the guitar to say everything. I don't. When I play an acoustic on stage, I'm strumming away on a jumbo. I do like to sit and noodle on the sofa with a smaller body guitar, which I have at home. So it's kind of horses for courses. But as we've said, any one of these guitars will do anything you want it to do. You might find one is slightly more purpose-built for a specific thing than the others. But it's down to your taste, really.
Indeed. And having said all that, I suppose we ought to play ourselves out effectively with something.
Yeah.